I never thought I'd see her again. My ex-wife, the woman I once trusted with my life, now walking into the same room where I sat quietly, nursing a coffee and my wounded pride. Life had a strange way of twisting fate, and this was one of those cruel twists. She had become a bank manager, one of the youngest in the city's history, and the husband she now flaunted seemed to delight in rubbing my past failures in my face. It all started a few years ago. I had loved her fiercely, more than anyone else. I supported her dreams, paid for her studies, and even helped her secure a stable job. I imagined a life together, building a home and creating memories. But apparently, love wasn't enough. She left me suddenly, claiming she needed someone who could give her more, leaving my heart shattered and my trust in ruins. At first, I tried to move on. Friends told me to forget her, to focus on my career, and I did, for a while. I threw myself into work, trying to drown the sting of betrayal in long hours and small victories, but nothing could erase the memory of how easily she had walked away, hand in hand with a man she barely knew, leaving all our shared dreams behind. Then, by sheer coincidence, or maybe fate, I found myself in her bank one afternoon. I had an appointment for a small loan I needed for a new project. I didn't expect to see her behind the counter, commanding the room with the kind of authority I had never imagined she could wield. Her hair was perfectly styled, her suit tailored, and her posture radiated confidence. She looked untouchable. Before I could gather my thoughts, she noticed me. Her eyes widened briefly, a flicker of surprise, maybe even guilt, but it was gone in an instant. "Hello," she said, her voice professional, distant. I nodded, trying to keep my composure. But then I saw him, her new husband. He was tall, well-dressed, and had that smug, overconfident smile that immediately made my blood boil. He looked at me and sneered. "Oh, it's you. I've heard stories about how she used to date less successful men." Every word cut deeper than I expected. The irony of it wasn't lost on me. Here I was, the man she once claimed to love, being belittled by someone who had only just entered her life. I felt anger rising, but also clarity. I realized then that this wasn't just about me being humiliated. It was about reclaiming my dignity. I took a deep breath and met his gaze. "I may not be the man she wanted back then," I said calmly, "but I've built a life that doesn't depend on anyone's approval, and I'm genuinely happy." He laughed, the kind of laugh that assumed victory. But I noticed the subtle hesitation in his eyes. Confidence isn't always as solid as it seems, especially when confronted with someone who has endured betrayal and risen stronger. I turned to her, speaking louder this time. "I hope your new life brings you happiness. I really do. But don't forget that respect is something money and position can't buy." Her eyes softened just for a second. Perhaps she realized that the man she had left behind wasn't broken. He had only grown. I left the bank that day with a strange sense of satisfaction. I hadn't yelled, I hadn't fought, and I hadn't sought revenge. The humiliation she and her husband had tried to inflict didn't stick. Instead, I walked out with my head held high, knowing that my life was mine to live and no one else's judgment could ever take that away. Sometimes, the best revenge isn't proving them wrong. It's proving yourself right. And as I walked down the street, the weight of the past lifted from my shoulders. I realized I had won in a way they could never understand.